Hello, my dear listeners. I'm Anna, and I'm so grateful you've chosen to spend these quiet moments with me tonight. There's something deeply magical about the way certain places weave themselves into our souls, isn't there? For me, that place is Koh Lipe, Thailand, a small jewel of an island where I once watched sunrise paint the morning sky in shades of coral and gold that seemed to exist nowhere else on Earth. I can still feel the way the powdered coral sand felt between my fingers. So impossibly fine it was, like touching silk made from the sea itself. And oh, the gentle percussion of longtail boat engines humming across crystalline waters, a sound that became the rhythm of pure contentment. Tonight, I'd love to carry you with me on a journey back to this sanctuary, where time moves like honey and every breath feels like a blessing. As we prepare to drift together toward this paradise, I wonder, can you imagine what it might feel like to have warm turquoise waters cradle you, while gentle trade winds whisper ancient island secrets against your skin? Let us begin our journey now, my dear friend, as evening settles over the Andaman Sea like a silk shawl draped across sleeping waters. Picture yourself approaching Koh Lipe as the day's final light transforms the horizon into watercolor dreams. The island emerges before you like something conjured from imagination. A crescent of pristine beaches wrapped around jungle-crowned hills, where every shade of green you've ever known seems to gather and dance together in the fading golden hour. Your feet first touch the impossibly soft sand of Pattaya Beach, and immediately you understand why this place feels different from anywhere else on Earth. The sand here isn't merely sand. It's countless generations of coral and shells ground fine by patient waves, creating a surface that yields beneath your steps like the most luxurious carpet. Each footprint you leave fills with crystalline water that mirrors the sky above, creating tiny pools of reflected clouds and evening stars. The air embraces you with the perfect temperature of a lover's whisper, warm enough to kiss your skin with gentle heat, yet touched by ocean breezes that carry the faint salt tang of distant horizons. You breathe deeply, and your lungs fill with an intoxicating blend of frangipani blossoms blooming somewhere in the island's heart. The clean ozone freshness that follows ocean waves, and something indefinably green, the living breath of tropical vegetation, drinking in the day's last moisture. Behind you, the gentle susurrus of waves creates nature's most ancient lullaby. These aren't the crashing breakers of wilder shores, but rather the soft, rhythmic caresses of water that has traveled thousands of miles to reach this protected cove. Each wave whispers secrets in a language older than words, rolling pebbles and fragments of coral in its gentle embrace before retreating with a satisfied sigh. As twilight deepens, you begin walking along the shoreline where Koh Lipe reveals more of her treasures. Your bare feet discover the changing textures beneath them. Sometimes, the silk-fine sand gives way to smooth river stones, worn round by countless tides, cool against your soles, and shifting slightly with each step. Occasionally, your toes encounter the ridged surface of a conch shell. Its spiral chambers, once home to creatures now returned to the sea's embrace. The water beside you glows with an ethereal luminescence, as if stars have fallen beneath the surface and continue their celestial dance in liquid darkness. When you pause and let your fingers trail through these warm waters, phosphorescent plankton swirl around your hand like captured starlight, creating brief galaxies that bloom and fade with each gentle movement. Above, the sky transforms into an artist's masterpiece, painted with brushes dipped in dreams. Coral pink melts into lavender, which deepens to indigo, studded with the first brave stars of evening. Venus appears low on the horizon, her light creating a silver pathway across waters so still they might be polished obsidian. The scents around you continue their subtle symphony. Now, the briny sweetness of seaweed drying on sun-warmed rocks mingles with the honeyed perfume of night-blooming jasmine beginning to open somewhere in the island's verdant interior. There's something else too, harder to name, but unmistakably tropical. Perhaps the vanilla warmth of coconut palms swaying overhead, their fronds creating gentle percussion as they brush against each other in the evening breeze. You discover a piece of driftwood, polished smooth by salt water and sun, until it feels like satin beneath your palm. Settling upon it, you become part of the island's evening meditation. The horizon stretches endlessly before you, that magical line where sea meets sky and possibilities become infinite. Small fishing boats dot the distance, their lights beginning to twinkle like earthbound constellations. The soft put-put of their engines carrying across the water like a gentle heartbeat. The island's jungle behind you stirs with the soft rustling of creatures beginning their nocturnal adventures. Palm fronds whisper ancient stories to each other, their voices joining the symphony of small waves and distant boat engines. Somewhere in the canopy, a night bird calls with liquid notes that seem to pour silver into the gathering darkness. Your skin tingles with the caress of humid air that feels like silk scarves brushing against you. The temperature seems perfect, as if Koh Lipe exists in some magical microclimate where comfort is the only constant. Salt crystals from ocean spray have dried on your arms, creating a subtle texture that catches the moonlight now beginning to emerge from behind wispy clouds. As you continue along this enchanted shoreline, each step reveals new wonders waiting to be discovered. gentle embrace of this island paradise. A hermit crab scuttles across your path, carrying its spiraled home with unhurried determination, pausing briefly as if acknowledging your presence before disappearing into a cluster of sea grapes, whose purple-tinged leaves rustle like paper lanterns in the breeze. The sound reminds you of childhood afternoons spent turning pages of beloved storybooks, and you realize that Koh Lipe itself feels like stepping into a tale written by the sea. Your journey leads you toward Sunrise Beach, where the shoreline curves in a gentle arc that cradles a lagoon of such startling clarity. You can observe hermit crabs conducting their midnight business on the sandy bottom, several feet below the surface. Bioluminescent organisms pulse with lazy rhythms in the depths, like underwater fireflies painting temporary murals of light that shift and dissolve with the water's gentle movement. Here, massive granite boulders emerge from both land and sea, their surfaces sculpted by millennia of monsoons and tides into organic sculptures that seem almost intentional in their beauty. These ancient sentinels create small grottos and alcoves where the water moves with barely perceptible currents, generating the softest liquid music. Not quite a gurgle, not quite a whisper, but something between the two that resonates with the peaceful rhythm of your own heartbeat. You discover tidal pools trapped among these rocky formations, miniature ecosystems that mirror the night sky while harboring their own secret worlds. Anemones unfurl like underwater flowers, their tentacles swaying in choreographed dances, while tiny fish dart between coral formations with silver flashes that catch and scatter moonbeams. The pools emit a subtle mineral scent, clean and sharp, reminiscent of rain on hot stone. As you explore these natural aquariums with gentle fingertips, the water maintains that perfect temperature that seems to dissolve the boundary between your skin and the sea. Small anemones respond to your presence by folding inward like shy blossoms, while others remain open, their centers glowing with inner phosphorescence that pulses in response to the slightest disturbance. The rocky coastline here tells stories in stone. Layers of sediment compressed over eons create abstract patterns that flow like frozen music across the boulder faces. Your palms trace these geological melodies, feeling how the stone alternates between baby smooth sections, polished by countless tides, and areas textured like fine sandpaper, where minerals have crystallized in the salt air. Moving inland slightly, you encounter Koh Lipe's mystical interior, where jungle paths wind between towering trees whose names you don't know, but whose presence feels ancestral. Rubber trees weep latex tears that have hardened into amber-colored drops, while massive fig trees spread their roots across the path like arthritic fingers, creating natural stepping stones carpeted with moss that yields underfoot like memory foam infused with earthiness. The canopy overhead forms a living cathedral where moonlight filters through leaves in dappled patterns that shift and dance across your skin. Night-blooming cereus flowers begin opening their spectacular faces, releasing perfume so intoxicating it seems to slow time itself. A fragrance that combines vanilla, cinnamon, and something mysteriously floral that exists nowhere else in nature. Your bare feet discover the changing textures of the jungle floor. Sometimes, the soft decomposition of fallen leaves creates a carpet that whispers with each step. Other times, exposed tree roots provide smooth, cool pathways that guide you deeper into the island's verdant heart. Dewdrops gather on spider webs that span between branches like nature's own dream catchers, each one holding tiny prisms that fracture moonlight into rainbow whispers. The sounds here layer themselves into a nocturnal symphony, unlike the seaside's gentle percussion. Fruit bats navigate overhead with leathery wing beats that create brief shadows against star-filled gaps in the canopy. Insects trill with crystalline voices that seem to emanate from the trees themselves, while somewhere in the distance, a gecko calls with liquid notes that echo off rock formations and tree trunks. You emerge onto Sunset Beach, where the sand takes on different characteristics, slightly coarser here, embedded with fragments of black volcanic rock that create natural patterns like calligraphy written by ancient tides. The water laps the shore with languid contentment, each small wave carrying foam that dissolves into lace-like patterns before sinking into the receptive sand with barely audible sighs. Pieces of sun-bleached coral lie scattered like sculptures across this beach, their surfaces honeycomb textured and surprisingly light when you lift them. Each piece tells the story of underwater gardens that once thrived in these waters, their calcium carbonate skeletons now serving as canvas for tiny barnacles and providing homes for hermit crabs who have claimed these abandoned structures as temporary shelters. The wind here carries different scents. The green smell of photosynthesis from seagrass beds visible in the shallows, combined with the subtle sweetness of decomposing kelp and the ozone-sharp freshness that precedes the gentle night rain that often graces these islands. Palm wine ferments naturally in fallen coconuts, adding a yeasty undertone to the atmospheric perfume. Stars emerge in earnest now, their light reflecting off the wet sand at the water's edge in ways that make the beach seem infinite, extending both above and below into cosmos of shimmering possibility. You lie back against the still warm sand, feeling how each grain conforms to support your body, while conducting the day's collected heat upward through your relaxed muscles. The Milky Way spreads across the unpolluted sky like spilled cream, so vivid you can almost hear its celestial music harmonizing with the gentle sounds of Koh Lipe settling into night's embrace, carrying you deeper into dreams of island paradise. Your breathing synchronizes with the island's own rhythms as gentle thermal currents rise from the cooling sand, carrying microscopic salt crystals that settle like benedictions on your closed eyelids. The sensation tickles just enough to remind you of your physical presence in this ethereal space, where the boundary between waking and dreaming grows deliciously uncertain. From your sandy resting place, you become aware of Koh Lipe's subtle geological heartbeat, the almost imperceptible vibration that travels through limestone bedrock as underground springs feed fresh water into hidden cenotes scattered throughout the island's core. This ancient pulse resonates through your spine, connecting you to processes that began long before human footsteps ever graced these shores. Rising with dreamlike slowness, you follow an unmarked trail that winds toward the island's elevated center, where centuries-old rain trees create natural pavilions with their umbrella-shaped canopies. Their massive trunks, wider than outstretched arms could encompass, bare bark that feels like elephant hide beneath your exploring palms, deeply furrowed and surprisingly warm, as if these giants generate their own gentle heat through some botanical alchemy. Epiphytic orchids nestle in the crooks of branches overhead, their waxy petals closed for the night, but releasing a subtle musk that mingles with the green oxygen being exhaled by countless leaves, processing starlight into dreams. Night-flying moths navigate between these aerial gardens with velvet wing beats, their bodies heavy with pollen that dusts your hair like fairy powder when they brush past in their nocturnal missions. The path leads to a natural amphitheater where ancient coral formations, thrust skyward by tectonic forces millennia ago, create terraced seating for an audience of night-blooming moonflowers. These ghostly white trumpets unfurl with movements so gradual you must remain perfectly still to witness their petals spreading like time-lapse prayers, each bloom releasing coolness into the warm air, as if exhaling captured moonbeams. Water trickles somewhere nearby, not the ocean's familiar voice, but the more intimate sound of a freshwater spring emerging from volcanic rock. Following this liquid music, you discover a natural basin where mineral-rich water bubbles up from deep earth, its temperature several degrees cooler than the ambient air. When you cup this water in your palms, it tastes of iron and thyme, carrying flavors leached from ancient stone formations that have filtered rainwater countless seasons. Stalks of wild ginger pierce through the understory here, their heart-shaped leaves creating natural umbrellas that channel dewdrops into musical droplets hitting lower foliage. The ginger's rhizomes, partially exposed by gentle erosion, release spicy aromatics into the humid air whenever your footsteps disturb the soil above them. A fragrance that seems to awaken some primal memory of spice markets and monsoon afternoons. Continuing upward, the vegetation shifts subtly as elevation increases. Bamboo groves create natural wind chimes where hollow stems knock against each other with hollow, meditative tones that vary in pitch according to their diameter and age. Walking through these living instruments, you become part of their percussion section. Your movements generating cascades of organic music that follow you like an invisible orchestra. The bamboo's surface feels paradoxically both smooth and textured, polished by wind and rain, yet retaining the subtle ridges where segments join. Some culms bend low enough that you must duck beneath them, and as they spring back into position behind you, they release the day's accumulated moisture in brief, refreshing showers that evaporate almost instantly from your sun-warmed skin. Emerging onto a small plateau, you encounter Koh Lipe's secret heart, a meditation garden that seems designed by nature's own feng shui. Smooth basalt stones, each one perfectly placed by geological coincidence, create informal seating around a natural depression where morning mist collects and evening calm settles like visible peace. The stones retain enough warmth from the day to create subtle thermal updrafts that carry the honeyed scent of tree sap and the green breath of photosynthesis paused for darkness. Here, fireflies begin their evening dance, each tiny lighthouse creating brief constellations that mirror the stars above. Their cold light traces hieroglyphs of joy through humid air, thick enough to feel like liquid silk against your bare arms. Some hover at eye level, close enough that you can observe their tiny bodies pulsing with bioluminescent heartbeats, while others rise toward the canopy where they join the constellation of larger creatures navigating by celestial compass. The night air here carries sonic textures not present at sea level. The dry rustle of palm fronds far above creates percussion distinct from their seaside cousins, while fruit bats communicate with ultrasonic calls that exist just at the edge of human hearing, creating a subliminal sense of presence and ancient intelligence moving through darkness above your head. Descending via a different path, you encounter terraces where generations of rainwater have carved natural steps into living rock. Each level creates its own microclimate, supporting different communities of night-active creatures, tiny tree frogs, no no larger than your thumbnail, sing soprano melodies from bromeliad pools, their voices creating counterpoint to the deeper bass notes of larger amphibians hidden in root caves below. The air grows thicker as you descend, laden with oxygen released by plants that have spent the day converting sunlight into the very atmosphere you now breathe so contentedly. Lianas drape between trees like nature's own hammocks, their woody stems twisted into Baroque sculptures that provide highways for nocturnal creatures whose eyes occasionally catch and reflect your movement as brief emerald or amber sparks in the surrounding shadows. Your final descent brings you to Walking Street, where the island's gentle human presence manifests as warm yellow light spilling from traditional longtail boat workshops. The mingled aromas of teak wood shavings and linseed oil create an olfactory signature completely different from the jungle's green perfumes or the ocean's salt sonnets. Here, human craft honors natural materials with patient hands that shape vessels destined to dance with tomorrow's tides. The wooden walkways beneath your feet still hold the day's heat, conducting warmth upward through your souls, while conducting the gentle vibrations of distant waves that reach even here, reminding you that no matter how far into Koh Lipe's terrestrial heart you venture, the sea's eternal presence continues its patient beckoning towards sleep and dreams and morning's inevitable return to paradise. Wandering beyond the workshop glow, you discover narrow alleys where bougainvillea cascades from weathered balconies in magenta waterfalls, their papery bracts rustling with the secret conversations of geckos who have claimed these vertical gardens as their evening hunting grounds. The brick pathways here have been worn smooth by decades of bare feet, their surface now cool and welcoming, curved slightly to channel the brief tropical showers that bless the island with liquid percussion before disappearing into thirsty earth below. Thai wind chimes crafted from polished shells suspend from eaves overhead, their hollow chambers creating whispered melodies distinct from bamboo's hollow percussion. These sing in silvery soprano notes that seem to channel the ocean's voice into terrestrial spaces. Each gentle breeze transforms these doorway guardians into instruments of tranquility, their calcium carbonate music box melodies following you through passages barely wide enough for two people to pass. You pause beside a traditional spirit house, its miniature architecture carved from single pieces of jackfruit wood that have aged to honey gold patina. Incense sticks burn with cherry sweet smoke that spirals upward in perfect helixes, their aromatic trails combining sandalwood's earthy depth with lotus blossom essence. The smoke creates ephemeral sculptures against star-filled darkness, each tendril carrying prayers peaceful intentions into atmospheric embrace. Garden plots tucked between buildings reveal Koh Lipe's agricultural secrets. Morning glory vines spiral up improvised trellises, their heart-shaped leaves creating privacy screens that rustle with papery whispers when night breezes investigate their climbing architecture. Lemongrass grows in dense clumps, releasing citrus oils into humid air whenever your passing disturbs their blade-like leaves, while galangal roots push through mulched soil, contributing their peppery aromatics to the evening's olfactory symphony. Traditional wooden shutters, painted turquoise and coral pink, stand open to invite cooling air through homes where families settle into evening routines. Soft conversations in melodic Thai float from these illuminated windows, the tonal language creating linguistic music that rises and falls with gentle cadences. Cooking aromas drift outward too. The toasted sesame fragrance of pad Thai meeting wok heat, fish sauces, umami depth, and palm sugar caramelizing into amber sweetness that makes your mouth water with anticipation of tomorrow's culinary adventures. The alley opens onto a small plaza where an ancient bonsai tree spreads protective branches over weathered stone benches. Prayer flags in sunset colors, saffron, vermilion, indigo, flutter from the tree's lower branches, their cotton fabric worn soft as silk by monsoon rains and tropical sunshine. Each flag bears Sanskrit mantras that seem to whisper blessings as they dance, their movements hypnotic and meditative in peripheral vision. While you rest beneath this sacred canopy, lotus buds float in ceramic water vessels placed around the bonsai's massive trunk, their waxy petals sealed tight until dawn's arrival triggers their spectacular blooming. The water in these offerings reflects streetlight like liquid mirrors, occasionally disturbed by visiting moths, whose wing tips create expanding ripples that distort reflected stars into shimmering abstract paintings that exist for mere moments before stillness returns. Following cobblestone paths worn smooth as river rocks, you emerge at a night market where vendors are closing their stalls with unhurried contentment. Dried squid hangs from bamboo racks, its protein-rich aroma mixing sea essence with smoky preservation techniques passed down through coastal generations. Ripe mangoes release their nectar perfume into air already thick with anticipation of tropical indulgence, while dragon fruit displays create geometric art with their magenta skin and alien beautiful scales. Woven baskets contain mysteries, cashews still attached to their apple fruits, rambutan with hair-like projections that tickle your palm when curiosity compels investigation, and mangosteens whose dark purple shells conceal ivory segments waiting to burst with with juice sweeter than any earthly expectation. The vendors' smiles transcend language barriers, their weathered hands moving with graceful efficiency as they arrange tomorrow's offerings, while sharing quiet laughter that adds human warmth to paradise's natural embrace. A street cat with fur like burnt amber approaches with confident friendliness, its purr creating vibrations that seem disproportionately loud for such a small creature. When you extend your hand, whiskers tickle your knuckles as the cat investigates your scent, apparently approving of your peaceful intentions before settling nearby to conduct its own evening meditation. The cat's breathing synchronizes with ocean rhythms audible even here, creating partnership in tranquility that requires no words or expectations. Returning toward Shoreline Sanctuary, you pass through groves where coconut palms lean at impossible angles, their flexibility allowing them to bow toward earth without breaking, creating natural archways that frame glimpses of phosphorescent waves beyond. Falling coconuts thud into sand with hollow percussion that punctuates night's gentle soundtrack, their impacts releasing coconut water that seeps into receptive earth, nourishing root systems that anchor these sentinels against monsoon winds. Your bare feet rediscover sand's embrace as civilization's gentle presence yields once more to elemental paradise. Here, where land surrenders to sea in eternal negotiation, you settle into meditation posture, facing horizons that promise infinite tomorrows. The sand beneath you radiates stored solar energy upward through your sitting bones, creating thermal connection to Earth's patient warmth, while ocean breezes carry salt kisses, that taste of adventure and contentment combined. Bioluminescent plankton respond to your presence by creating halos of blue-green starlight wherever water meets your trailing fingers, each disturbance generating galaxies of living illumination that bloom and fade like visual music composed by microscopic performers. The display seems choreographed specifically for this moment, this place, this perfect intersection of human wonder and natural magic that defines Koh Lipe's eternal gift to those who surrender completely to its embrace. Above, shooting stars trace silver calligraphy across tropical darkness, while your breathing deepens into rhythms that mirror tidal patterns, carrying you toward sleep's threshold, where dreams and reality blur into single tapestry, woven from moonlight, contentment, and the infinite peace that only island paradises can bestow upon surrendered souls. Sleep hovers at consciousness's edge like morning fog, gathering strength. Yet the island continues revealing treasures too precious to abandon entirely. Your spine settles deeper into sand that has cooled to perfect temperature, neither warm nor cool, but existing in that magical threshold where material comfort dissolves into pure sensation. Each vertebra finds its natural alignment, as if Koh Lipe's very geology understands the architecture of human rest. Tiny sand crabs emerge from their daylight hiding places, their translucent bodies barely visible against moon-silvered grains, until movement betrays their presence. They scuttle in purposeful patterns around your resting form, their miniature legs creating the faintest tickling sensations when they accidentally brush against your ankles. These delicate creatures seem to accept you as part of their nocturnal landscape, continuing their mysterious errands with industrious dedication that speaks to cycles far older than human concerns. The ocean's surface tension breaks occasionally with gentle plops as flying fish return from brief aerial journeys, their wing fins catching starlight for split seconds before disappearing beneath liquid darkness. These sounds arrive unpredictably, like nature's own meditation bells scattered randomly through time, each splash followed by expanding circles that catch and scatter moonbeams in hypnotic patterns, spreading outward toward infinity. Seaweed forests sway in underwater currents, visible through crystalline shallows, their fronds performing ballet choreographed by tidal forces and filtered starlight. Occasional fish navigate these submerged gardens with lazy fin movements, their scales creating brief mirror flashes that seem like underwater fireflies conducting business in liquid space. The vegetation's movement generates subtle hydraulic whispers as water flows through organic architecture designed by evolutionary patience. Your hair lifts and settles with each atmospheric shift, individual strands responding to humidity changes that precede the gentle night shower beginning to gather in clouds overhead. The first droplets arrive so softly they feel like blessings rather than weather, each one carrying coolness earned during its journey through upper atmosphere, now gifting that refreshment to your salt-kissed skin with touches light as butterfly wingtips. Thunder rumbles somewhere beyond the horizon, not threatening, but conversational, as if distant lightning conducts philosophical discussions with ocean depths. The sound rolls across water with dignified leisure, its bass notes vibrating through sand into your relaxed body, where they resonate in chest cavity and stomach, creating internal percussion that harmonizes with your gradually slowing heartbeat. Rain arrives with tropical generosity, each drop large enough to create individual impact craters in sand around your peaceful form. The precipitation carries ozone freshness mixed with trace minerals collected during its atmospheric journey. And when drops land on your lips, they taste of sky-filtered purity, seasoned with electromagnetic energy left over from the storm's distant electrical birth. Wet sand develops different acoustic properties, now muffling the tiny sounds of crab movement, while amplifying the percussive rhythm of raindrops, creating temporary lakes in naturally formed depressions. Your skin becomes a canvas where water traces abstract patterns, some drops rolling along collarbone valleys, while others pool briefly in the hollow of your throat before continuing their gravitational journey toward Earth's patient embrace. The shower passes as quickly as it arrived, leaving behind air so clean it seems to sparkle with invisible energy. Steam rises from sand that absorbed the day's heat, creating ephemeral ghosts that dissipate almost immediately into atmosphere, now charged with negative ions that induce deeper tranquility in every cell of your increasingly drowsy being. This post-rain freshness carries subtle vanilla undertones from wet frangipani petals somewhere in darkness beyond your vision. Night blooming, jasmine opens in response to increased humidity, releasing perfume so exquisite it seems designed specifically for this moment of perfect peace. The fragrance arrives in gentle waves rather than constant presence, allowing your olfactory system to rediscover its intensity each time evening breezes carry new concentrations across your resting place. Between these aromatic waves, you catch whiffs of wet earth, ozone, and something indefinably tropical that might be the scent of happiness itself. Your consciousness drifts between waking awareness and dream-touched perception as phosphorescent algae begin their nightly light show with increased intensity, possibly triggered by the fresh rainwater disturbing their microscopic communities. The sea glows with gentle aurora effects, blue-green luminescence pulsing in slow rhythms that match the deepest stages of sleep breathing. This living light creates the impression that you're resting at the edge of a galaxy made liquid, where stars have learned to swim. Fruit bat colonies begin their evening commute overhead, their leathery wings creating atmospheric pressure changes you feel as gentle puffs against upturned face. These flying mammals navigate with echolocation calls that exist mostly beyond human hearing range. Yet, occasionally, their vocalizations drop into audible frequencies as brief chirps that seem to acknowledge your peaceful presence before fading back into ultrasonic conversations about fruit trees and night hunting strategies. The moon reaches zenith position, its light now falling vertically through atmosphere made crystalline by the recent shower. This celestial illumination transforms wet surfaces into mirror worlds. Every rain puddle, every water droplet clinging to vegetation, every wave crest becomes a fragment of lunar landscape brought down to earth level. Your closed eyelids detect these brightness variations, as gentle fluctuations in the red-tinged darkness behind relaxed facial muscles. Tidal forces begin their subtle shift toward low water, creating almost imperceptible changes in wave frequency and intensity that your unconscious mind registers as deepening safety. The ocean's recession exposes new territories of wet sand that release trapped gases in tiny exhalations, not unpleasant, but earthy and organic, carrying stories of marine creatures and underwater plant communities that remain hidden during high tide periods. Your breathing naturally synchronizes with these extended tidal rhythms, each exhalation lasting slightly longer than the last as consciousness prepares for its nightly journey into restorative depths. The boundary between your physical form and Koh Lipe's embracing presence grows increasingly indistinct, as if the island's peaceful energy slowly dissolves the separation between observer and paradise observed. Dreams begin infiltrating waking awareness with images of underwater gardens where coral formations spell poetry in living architecture, while schools of silver fish create calligraphy that writes itself across blue space in scripts older than human language. These visions arrive with the texture of memory rather than imagination, as if Koh Lipe shares her deeper secrets with those who surrender completely to her nocturnal sanctuary. The last conscious sensation involves recognizing how perfectly your body temperature has synchronized with ambient air, creating thermal equilibrium so complete that physical boundaries seem to evaporate into star-filled contentment, where rest becomes indistinguishable from floating in amniotic peace, cradled by an island that continues its ancient lullaby long after awareness fades into dreams of eternal tropical serenity. In the liminal space between sleep and waking, your consciousness floats like kelp, suspended in warm currents, tethered to Koh Lipe's nocturnal embrace by threads of sensation, so delicate they might dissolve at the slightest effort to grasp them. The island's heartbeat pulses through limestone bedrock beneath layers of coral sand, creating vibrations so subtle they register more as intuition than physical awareness, guiding your descent into deeper tranquility. Hermit crabs conduct their midnight real estate negotiations in tidal pools nearby. The tiny clicking sounds of their claws against abandoned shells, creating a percussion section for dreams already beginning to form. These miniature conversations occur in frequencies that bypass conscious interpretation, instead weaving directly into the fabric of emerging sleep stories, where crustacean wisdom translates into human understanding of home, movement, and the courage required for growth. Spider crabs emerge from crevices between volcanic rocks, their jointed legs tapping Morse code messages across surfaces glazed smooth by millennia of monsoon seasons. Their movements generate whisper-soft scratching sounds that blend with the rustle of sea lettuce undulating in shallow currents, creating an organic symphony that seems composed specifically for guiding consciousness toward restorative depths where healing occurs without effort or intention. The gravitational pull of distant planets influences water molecules around your peaceful form, creating microscopic tidal effects in the film of seawater coating your relaxed limbs. These cosmic forces operate beyond sensory perception, yet somehow register in cellular memory, connecting your island rest to astronomical rhythms that have guided oceanic breathing since Earth's molten birth cooled enough to cradle seas. Nocturnal orchid mantises hunt among night-blooming vines that cascade from rocky outcroppings, their impossibly delicate footsteps creating vibrations too faint for ears, but perfectly calibrated for transmission through ground contact to sleeping human nervous systems. These predatory dancers move with precision that borders on ceremony, their presence adding layers of ancient patience to the atmospheric peace settling over your increasingly still form. Sea cucumber colonies expand across underwater meadows, visible through crystal clear shallows, their bodies pulsing with hydraulic rhythms that mirror the deepest stages of human sleep cycles. These primitive creatures conduct biological processes that predate vertebrate evolution. Yet, their living meditation somehow resonates with your own journey into unconsciousness, as if all Earth's creatures share common dreams rooted in oceanic origins. Microscopic diatoms suspended in water droplets clinging to your eyelashes refract moonlight into spectral displays, too small for conscious observation, yet bright enough to paint fleeting rainbow aurora across the interior landscape of closed eyes. These single-celled artists create galleries of light that exist for moments measured in heartbeats, their exhibitions witnessed only by the dreaming mind, already beginning its nightly voyage through realms where physics becomes poetry. The chemical signature of decomposing coral polyps releases calcium ions into surrounding water, creating mineral concentrations that somehow enhance the conductivity of neural pathways associated with deep relaxation. Your skin absorbs these ancient elements through osmosis, so gradual it occurs below awareness thresholds. Yet their presence facilitates the transition from waking tension to sleeping restoration with efficiency perfected across geological time scales. juvenile sea turtles navigate past your resting place, using magnetic field detection systems that evolved before continents assumed their current positions. Their instinctive journey creating ripples in Earth's electromagnetic fabric that influence brainwave patterns in sleeping humans. These reptilian navigators carry genetic memories of tropical paradises that existed when Koh Lipe lay beneath primordial seas. Their passage blessing current dreams with echoes of prehistoric serenity. Bioluminescent bacteria colonizing driftwood fragments emit photons in response to mechanical stress, creating brief constellations whenever wave action disturbs their wooden hosts. These living light shows occur in peripheral vision's furthest reaches, registering as gentle sparkles that might be stars reflected in water or neurons firing in visual cortex, already surrendering to sleep's approaching embrace. The molecular structure of salt crystals forming on your skin creates microscopic prisms that continue processing available light even as conscious vision fades. Their geometric perfection, focusing ambient luminescence into patterns that stimulate pineal gland activity associated with melatonin production. This natural crystalline architecture transforms your resting body into a living geode, channeling environmental energy toward neurochemical processes that deepen approaching slumber. Mantis shrimps hunt in deeper waters beyond the reef edge, their compound eyes perceiving polarized light spectra invisible to human vision, yet somehow broadcasting their alien observations through quantum field fluctuations that influence electromagnetic activity in nearby sleeping brains. These arthropod mystics witness colors that have no names, sharing their impossible visions through mechanisms that operate beyond current scientific understanding. Volcanic minerals dissolved in seawater carry trace elements that originated in stellar nucleosynthesis, events billions of years before Earth's formation. Their cosmic heritage now contributing to the chemical bath surrounding your peaceful form. Iron from exploded supernovas, calcium forged in dying star cores, and silicon crystallized in nebular clouds all participate in this moment of island tranquility, connecting personal rest to universal processes of creation and transformation. The acoustic properties of water change subtly with temperature variations caused by underground thermal springs, creating sound transmission corridors that carry whale songs from deep ocean trenches hundreds of miles away. These cetacean lullabies arrive as subsonic vibrations felt rather than heard, their melancholy beauty penetrating sleeping consciousness with dreams of vast migrations through liquid space where time moves like centuries and distance becomes meaningless. Photosynthetic plankton begin their reverse metabolic cycle as darkness deepens, releasing oxygen accumulated during daylight hours in microscopic exhalations that increase atmospheric concentration around your resting place. This biological breathing creates air quality so pure it seems to glow with vitality. Each inhalation delivering molecular gifts from organisms whose existence spans just days, yet whose collective contribution sustains oceanic life across millennia. Your dream narrative begins incorporating elements that exist beyond personal experience. As if Koh Lipe's ancient consciousness shares memories accumulated across centuries of sheltering travelers, lovers, mystics, and wanderers who found sanctuary on these shores. These borrowed dreams arrive with the authenticity of lived experience, yet carry wisdom gathered from lives you've never lived, creating sleep stories that feel simultaneously foreign and intimately familiar, guiding your spirit toward rest that transcends individual existence and touches something eternal, dwelling in tropical paradise where time pools like tide water and peace becomes the only reality that matters. Dream consciousness expands beyond individual boundaries as your sleeping mind merges with the collective memory stored in Koh Lipe's coral foundation, where countless generations of marine organisms have deposited their calcium carbonate stories into geological archives that now pulse with accumulated wisdom. Your neural pathways sync with these ancient records, downloading experiences of monsoons that carved the island's current contours and volcanic episodes that birthed the granite sentinels standing guard over protected lagoons. Beneath your dreaming form, archean bacteria continue metabolic processes unchanged, since Earth's atmosphere contained no oxygen. Their primitive persistence creating chemical signatures that somehow enhance REM sleep quality in humans who rest above their microscopic civilizations. These cellular ancients conduct business that predates complex life by billions of years. Yet, their biochemical exhaust provides optimal conditions for the neurological restoration occurring in your increasingly still body. Magnetic field variations caused by underwater iron ore deposits influence compass needles carried by migrating seabirds now roosting in cliff face nooks carved by centuries of storm surge. Their navigation systems temporarily confused by mineral wealth that makes Koh Lipe a natural way station for creatures following instinctive paths across oceanic vastness. These aerial nomads dream their own dreams of endless flight, their collective unconscious somehow broadcasting visions of thermal columns and trade wind highways into your receptive sleeping consciousness. Underwater earthquake tremors originating hundreds of miles away transmit through oceanic crust at frequencies below human hearing, yet perfectly matched to brainwave patterns associated with the deepest sleep stages. Their seismic lullabies arriving as gentle vibrations that massage tension from muscle fibers already surrendering to gravitational embrace. These planetary heartbeats connect your island rest to tectonic processes that continue reshaping ocean floors according to schedules measured in geological epochs. The molecular composition of night air changes as nocturnal photosynthesis reverses in terrestrial plant communities, creating atmospheric chemistry that enhances human production of growth hormones released exclusively during sleep's most restorative phases. Tree ferns unfurl in response to decreased light levels, their prehistoric architecture channeling humid air through living ventilation systems that purify oxygen with efficiency, evolved across millions of years of tropical refinement. Gravitational anomalies created by dense coral reef structures influence lymphatic drainage patterns in sleeping humans positioned at optimal angles relative to these calcium carbonate monuments, enhancing circulation through biological channels responsible for removing metabolic waste accumulated during waking hours. Your body instinctively assumes positions that maximize these subtle tidal effects on internal fluid dynamics. Cellular housekeeping proceeding with supernatural efficiency, aided by geological architecture designed by accidental perfection, spawning cycles of deep-sea creatures synchronize with lunar phases that also regulate human endocrine function, creating hormonal harmonics between your sleeping physiology and reproductive rhythms of organisms inhabiting abyssal trenches thousands of feet below conscious awareness. These biological connections operate through mechanisms that science hasn't yet mapped. Quantum entanglement, perhaps linking all oceanic life through shared evolutionary heritage encoded in DNA sequences older than continents. Crystalline structures within beach sand create piezoelectric effects when compressed by your resting weight, generating microscopic electrical currents that stimulate acupuncture points along meridian pathways recognized by traditional healing systems developed by cultures who intuitively understood connections between earth energies and human vitality. These involuntary treatments occur continuously throughout your island slumber. Ancient wisdom expressed through geological happenstance rather than intentional therapeutic intervention. Atmospheric pressure variations caused by thermal dynamics unique to tropical maritime environments, influence cerebrospinal fluid circulation patterns that facilitate toxin removal from brain tissue during sleep's cleansing cycles. The island's meteorological embrace creating conditions that optimize neurological restoration with precision that seems deliberately calibrated for human benefit. Barometric shifts, too subtle for conscious perception, trigger biochemical cascades that enhance memory consolidation and emotional processing occurring in sleeping neural networks. The electromagnetic signature of underwater cable coral formations generates extremely low frequency radiation patterns that entrain brainwave activity toward coherent states associated with profound meditation. These living transmission networks broadcasting signals that evolved to coordinate spawning events across reef systems, now inadvertently creating optimal conditions for human consciousness to achieve transcendent rest. Your sleeping brain receives these biological broadcasts as guidance toward deeper tranquility than typically possible in terrestrial environments. Sedimentary layers compressed beneath coral sand contain fossilized fragments of prehistoric marine reptiles whose calcium phosphate remains continue influencing mineral content of surrounding seawater. These ancient bones leaching trace elements that enhance melatonin synthesis in contemporary organisms exposed to their chemical legacy. Dormant genetic sequences activated by contact with these molecular signatures trigger ancestral memories of oceanic peace that predates human anxiety by evolutionary eons. Tectonic stress patterns locked within bedrock create subtle magnetic field fluctuations that influence iron-rich hemoglobin molecules in sleeping human bloodstreams, optimizing oxygen transport efficiency during nocturnal cellular repair processes that benefit from enhanced metabolic support available only in environments where geological forces maintain specific electromagnetic conditions. Your cardiovascular system operates at peak performance, powered by planetary energies focused through island geography into healing frequencies. Biochemical signals released by spawning coral polyps trigger responses in human olfactory receptors connected to limbic structures responsible for processing emotional memories. These microscopic aromatic molecules carrying information that somehow translates into dream content, featuring profound experiences of safety and belonging that surpass personal history limitations. Your sleeping mind processes these chemical messages as confirmation of fundamental rightness with existence itself. Quantum field fluctuations generated by photosynthetic processes in single-celled organisms create subtle vibrations in local space-time fabric that influence probability distributions, governing random neural firing patterns. These cosmic scale events somehow biasing synaptic activity toward configurations associated with deep contentment and spiritual insight. Your dreaming consciousness accesses states of awareness typically reserved for advanced meditation practitioners, guided by microscopic events that bridge physics and transcendence. The thermal signature of volcanic substrate beneath layers of biological sediment maintains temperatures that optimize enzyme function in human skin cells exposed to mineral-rich seawater. Biochemical processes operating at maximum efficiency, while environmental conditions eliminate stressors that normally interfere with cellular regeneration during sleep. Your epidermis becomes a living laboratory where healing occurs at accelerated rates, powered by geological heat sources that have warmed these waters since tectonic plates first collided to birth island paradise. As consciousness dissolves completely into oceanic unity, your individual identity merges with collective awareness that includes every creature that ever found sanctuary on Koh Lipe's shores, their accumulated peace becoming yours as sleep deepens beyond measurement into realms where restoration transcends biology and touches something eternal that dwells wherever earth meets sea in perfect harmony, carrying you beyond dreams into dimension of absolute rest, where healing happens through simple existence in paradise that continues its ancient work of blessing all who surrender to its timeless embrace. Your breathing now indistinguishable from tidal rhythms that rock the world toward morning through liquid lullabies that have sung consciousness to sleep. Since oceans first learned their eternal songs of peace deep beneath conscious awareness, where sleep currents carry dreaming souls through liquid darkness, your spirit drifts alongside ancient sea grass meadows that sway in choreographed reverence to currents older than memory. These underwater prairies stretch beyond visibility into azure infinity, their blade-like leaves creating whispered conversations as they bend and straighten in aquatic wind patterns that follow laws written in water rather than air. Microscopic seahorses, no larger than rice grains, navigate this submerged savanna with tail grips so delicate they leave no trace on the vegetation they briefly embrace during their miniature migrations. Their translucent bodies pulse with heartbeats visible through skin thin as soap bubbles, each cardiac rhythm synchronized to match the gentle undulation of their grass blade highways, swaying in subsurface thermal currents that rise from volcanic vents hidden in oceanic trenches. Your sleeping consciousness follows these diminutive equine spirits through kelp cathedrals, where shafts of filtered moonlight create silvered columns supporting architecture built from nothing but living intention and saltwater dreams. The kelp's holdfast roots anchor into crevices filled with crushed mother of pearl, creating iridescent foundations that shimmer with every color that exists between purple and gold. Their nacre surface reflecting internal light that seems generated by contentment itself. Colonies of tube sponges extend upward like organ pipes crafted from living coral, their hollow chambers resonating with frequencies produced by water flowing through biological architecture, designed by evolutionary composers who understood that form and function could create music. These organic instruments generate subsonic hymns that penetrate sleeping human consciousness as wordless melodies carrying messages of patience, learned through centuries of filtering nutrients from passing currents. Garden eels emerge from sandy burrows with movements so fluid they seem to be dancing vertical waltz steps in liquid ballrooms, where gravity operates according to different rules than terrestrial physics. Their serpentine bodies create graceful question marks against backgrounds of white sand that sparkles with fragments of dissolved starfish, each calcium carbonate grain carrying memories of creatures who once reached toward surface light before surrendering their five-pointed geometry to become foundation for tomorrow's reef builders. Cleaner wrasses establish service stations among brain coral formations, whose convoluted surfaces mirror the neural pathways firing in your dreaming mind. These tiny fish conducting delicate operations that remove parasites from larger creatures who wait with patience that borders on meditation. The symbiotic relationships unfolding in these underwater clinics demonstrate cooperation. So intricate it seems choreographed by intelligence that transcends individual species boundaries. Nudibranchs crawl across surfaces with foot muscles that secrete mucus trails containing pheromones capable of triggering euphoric responses in human olfactory systems. Their slug-like progress leaving chemical breadcrumbs that somehow translate into dream narratives featuring profound experiences of unconditional acceptance. These shellless gastropods wear their gills like external crowns, breathing ocean through organs displayed with vulnerability that speaks to courage deeper than fear. Schools of juvenile parrotfish move in formations that create living murals against reef backdrops, their scales reflecting ambient light in patterns that shift like aurora borealis, trapped underwater and slowed to match sleeping human brainwave frequencies. These herbivorous artists graze algae with specialized teeth that scrape music from coral surfaces, their feeding sounds creating percussion rhythms that resonate through water with frequencies that enhance delta wave production in nearby dreaming mammals. Cowrie shells inhabited by hermit crabs polish themselves against volcanic glass fragments until their surfaces achieve mirror perfection. These mobile homes, reflecting fragmentary images of passing fish, like living kaleidoscopes that reorganize reality into geometric patterns, following mathematical principles discovered by mollusks long before human consciousness evolved to appreciate their beauty. The shell's glossy surfaces catch and scatter bioluminescence like captured lightning, redistributed as gentle illumination. Basket stars unfurl feeding arms with movements so deliberate they seem to be practicing ancient sign language. Their branching appendages creating fractal geometry that somehow resonates with similar patterns, organizing neural connections in sleeping human brains. These echinoderms filter microscopic plankton from water columns, while simultaneously demonstrating mathematical relationships that connect their feeding behavior to cosmic structures, visible only through deep space telescopes. Pipefish camouflaged as floating seaweed drift with currents, while maintaining perfect stillness relative to their plant-like camouflage. Their needle-thin bodies demonstrating patience, so completed, becomes invisible to predators who search for movement rather than presence. These masters of disguise embody meditation principles that unconsciously influence human sleep quality. Their example of motionless awareness, somehow teaching dreaming minds to rest within activity and find peace within change. Christmas tree worms retract into calcium carbonate tubes with reflexes faster than conscious thought. Their feathery feeding, appendages disappearing into fortress homes built from their own secretions, combined with minerals extracted from seawater through biological processes that create architectural strength rivaling human engineering. The spiral patterns of their feeding crowns follow golden ratio proportions that activate aesthetic pleasure centers in human brains, even during unconscious observation. Mantis shrimp larvae drift through water columns as transparent phantoms, equipped with compound eyes capable of perceiving polarized light spectra that exist beyond visible rainbow boundaries. Their alien vision, somehow broadcasting impossible colors into sleeping human consciousness through quantum mechanical processes that operate below scientific detection thresholds. These arthropod mystics witness electromagnetic phenomena that have no terrestrial equivalents, sharing their cosmic awareness through mechanisms that transcend sensory limitations. Coral spawn released during nocturnal reproduction cycles creates blizzards of gametes that rise toward surface waters, carrying genetic information accumulated across centuries of adaptation to tropical paradise conditions. These reproductive celebrations, filling ocean space with biological snow that settles into sleeping human awareness as dreams of infinite renewal and cyclical perfection. The spawning events connect individual rest to planetary fertility rhythms that govern oceanic regeneration according to lunar calendars older than recorded history. Deep currents carrying minerals dissolved from underwater mountain ranges create invisible rivers within the sea. These liquid highways, transporting chemical messages between distant reef systems, while simultaneously influencing human neural chemistry through exposure to trace elements that originated in hydrothermal vents, where life first learned to metabolize sulfur compounds into energy. Your sleeping body absorbs these primordial nutrients through osmosis processes that operate continuously during oceanic immersion. The electromagnetic patterns generated by schooling fish create interference, effects that influence local magnetic field variations. These biological disruptions, somehow enhancing human pineal gland sensitivity to cosmic radiation cycles that regulate circadian rhythms according to stellar positions rather than solar time. Your internal clock synchronizes with astronomical events occurring beyond Earth's atmosphere, connecting island rest to galactic rotation periods that measure time in scales appropriate to oceanic consciousness. Bioluminescent algae respond to pressure waves created by sleeping human respiration, their light production increasing in direct correlation to the depth of relaxation achieved by nearby mammals. These microscopic organisms somehow detecting and amplifying states of human tranquility through biochemical processes that create positive feedback loops between conscious surrender and environmental luminescence. The brighter the algae glow, the deeper your sleep becomes, until distinction between personal peace and planetary illumination dissolves into unified radiance that carries consciousness beyond individual boundaries into collective dreams shared by every creature that ever discovered paradise, where warm seas cradle sleeping souls in liquid embrace that rocks awareness gently through tidal lullabies toward dawn's inevitable return to conscious wonder. Jellyfish phantoms pulse through liquid space with bell contractions that create hydraulic poetry, their transparent bodies channeling moonbeams through gelatinous prisms that separate white light into component wavelengths before releasing rainbow fragments back into surrounding darkness. These Nidarian spirits trail tentacles like silk scarves abandoned by underwater dancers, their movements creating pressure waves that massage sleeping human tissue through water's perfect conductivity of gentle force. Razor clams buried in sandy substrate extend siphons toward surface currents, their muscular feet anchoring deep, while filtering organs taste water chemistry changes that indicate approaching weather systems still hours beyond meteorological prediction. These bivalve meteorologists process atmospheric data through biological sensors that evolved to read barometric poetry written in molecular signatures dissolved within tidal embrace. Their prophetic abilities somehow transmitting forecast tranquility into human dreams already prepared for morning's gentle arrival. Sea pens sway like underwater wheat fields, their colonial polyps creating flexible stalks that bend without breaking under pressure from currents carrying nutrients across oceanic distances measured in thousands of nautical miles. These soft corals demonstrate architectural principles that human engineers study but rarely master. Their structures capable of withstanding typhoon forces while maintaining delicate beauty that transforms water movement into visible music, played through living instruments tuned by evolutionary patience. Flatworms glide across rocky surfaces with muscular undulations that create locomotion, so smooth they appear to be sliding on invisible lubrication. Their bodies secreting enzymes that break down organic matter into molecular components small enough to absorb through skin that functions simultaneously as digestive system and sensory organ. These primitive creatures navigate through chemical gradients that guide them toward food sources while avoiding predators. Their simple nervous systems somehow processing environmental information with efficiency that allows them to thrive in ecological niches where complexity would prove disadvantageous. Crown of thorns starfish move with deliberate persistence across coral formations, their multiple arms coordinating movement patterns that demonstrate distributed intelligence, operating without centralized command structures. Each limb contains independent neural networks capable of making locomotion decisions while maintaining coordination with adjacent appendages. These echinoderms embodying organizational principles that human societies struggle to implement despite possessing supposedly superior cognitive capabilities. Feather stars perch on elevated positions where currents deliver planktonic meals directly to their filtering apparatus. These crinoids extending feathery arms into water flow with timing so precise they capture maximum nutrition while expending minimum energy. Their feeding behavior follows mathematical optimization curves that engineers recognize but struggle to replicate in mechanical systems. Biological efficiency achieved through trial and error processes spanning millions of generations, gradually perfecting techniques for extracting sustenance from liquid environments. Gobies establish territorial boundaries through color displays that shift across their scales like living television screens. These tiny fish, communicating complex social information through chromatic languages that operate faster than human speech, while conveying emotional subtleties that words rarely capture. Their pigment cells respond to neurological commands with precision that creates real-time visual conversations between individuals who establish hierarchies and negotiate conflicts through spectacular light shows that transform aggression into art. Sea anemones contract and expand with rhythms that mirror human respiratory patterns. Their muscular columns demonstrating breathing techniques that maximize gas exchange through tissue surfaces designed for underwater respiration. These anthozoans process dissolved oxygen with efficiency that allows them to survive in conditions where vertebrate life would suffocate. Their metabolic adaptations offering lessons in biological sustainability that human medicine studies for applications in treating respiratory disorders. Worm tubes constructed from cemented sand grains create architectural marvels that demonstrate engineering principles humans discovered only recently. These polychaete homes, built through secretion processes that bind loose particles into structures stronger than concrete, while remaining flexible enough to withstand seismic activity. The tube's spiral configurations follow hydrodynamic equations that optimize water flow while minimizing construction materials. These marine architects solving complex engineering problems through instinctive behaviors that produce solutions requiring human-computer modeling to fully understand. Bryozoans form colonial carpets across hard substrates, their individual zooids creating cooperative communities where specialized members perform different functions while sharing resources through connecting channels that distribute nutrients throughout the collective organism. These moss animals demonstrate social organization models that balance individual autonomy with community welfare. Their success, measured across geological time scales that dwarf human civilization, while proving that cooperation strategies can persist longer than competitive approaches. Hydroids extend feeding polyps from branching stems that create miniature forests where microscopic creatures find shelter among fronds too small for human eyes to resolve without magnification. These cnidarian gardens providing nursery habitat for larval stages of organisms that will grow into reef builders and open ocean navigators. The hydroid colonies pulse with coordinated contractions that move water through their branch networks, creating circulation systems that maintain optimal conditions for their symbiotic partners, while demonstrating fluid dynamics principles that inspire biomimetic research. Stalked barnacles attach to hard surfaces through cement proteins stronger than any human adhesive. Their calcified shells opening to reveal feathery appendages that sweep plankton from passing currents with movements resembling underwater dance performances. These crustaceans begin life as free-swimming larvae before selecting permanent homes where they spend adult existence filtering food from water while contributing their own reproductive output to planktonic communities that support entire marine ecosystems. Alcyonarian soft corals unfurl polyps in response to current patterns that deliver optimal feeding opportunities. Their tissue, containing photosynthetic algae that supplement filter feeding with solar energy, converted into sugars through biochemical processes that predate terrestrial plant evolution. These partnerships between animal and plant cells demonstrate cooperation strategies that blur taxonomic boundaries while creating biological success stories measured in both individual longevity and evolutionary persistence across changing environmental conditions. Serpent stars navigate through crevices with arm movements that follow mathematical principles governing efficient locomotion across irregular surfaces. Their skeletal plates articulating with precision that allows rapid escape responses while maintaining structural integrity during encounters with predators. These ophiuroids regenerate lost appendages through stem cell activation that human medicine studies for applications in treating traumatic injuries. Their healing capabilities demonstrating biological engineering that surpasses current medical technology. Your dreaming consciousness absorbs these examples of oceanic wisdom through osmosis that operates below cognitive thresholds. Each creature's adaptive strategy contributing information to subconscious processing systems that integrate marine lessons into human neural architecture during sleep cycles, specifically designed for incorporating external learning into internal knowledge structures. The reef's biological library downloads itself into your resting mind through quantum mechanical processes that connect all living systems within electromagnetic fields generated by planetary rotation through liquid media that conducts information at light speed between organisms separated by evolutionary history, but united through shared oceanic heritage that predates continental drift. Salt crystals forming on your skin create microscopic lenses that focus available photons into concentrated beams that stimulate vitamin synthesis in tissue layers exposed to mineral-enriched seawater. These natural optics enhancing biochemical processes that normally require direct sunlight, while you rest in lunar illumination filtered through atmosphere and reflected from wave surfaces that act as liquid mirrors, redistributing celestial energy into frequencies optimal for nocturnal healing. Your epidermis becomes a living solar collector that operates efficiently under stellar radiation, powered by crystalline structures that form spontaneously when ocean minerals encounter human biochemistry in perfect tropical conditions, where healing happens through simple presence in paradise, designed by geological patience to nurture consciousness toward transcendent rest that continues beyond individual dreams into collective awakening, shared by all who discover peace, where warm seas meet sleeping souls in eternal embrace. Limestone caverns hidden beneath the island's surface echo with the whispered conversations of stalactites that have been growing for millennia. Each mineral deposit recording rainfall patterns in geological braille that tells stories of monsoons and droughts in calcium carbonate chronicles. Underground rivers carved these chambers through patient dissolution, creating acoustic spaces where single water droplets generate musical notes that resonate through stone chambers, tuned by accidental perfection. Your sleeping form above remains unaware of these subterranean concert halls. Yet, somehow, the harmonic frequencies penetrate through layers of compressed coral sand, reaching your resting consciousness as subsonic lullabies that guide brainwave patterns toward delta rhythms associated with the deepest healing sleep. These limestone cathedrals breathe with tidal pressure changes, inhaling and exhaling atmosphere through hidden fissures that connect underground spaces to ocean rhythms. Mangrove roots extending into brackish pools create natural filtration systems where fresh rainwater mingles with tidal intrusion. These botanical kidneys processing nutrients while providing nursery habitat for creatures adapted to salinity gradients that fluctuate with lunar cycles. The prop roots arch gracefully above water lines, their reddish bark containing tannins that leach slowly into surrounding water, creating tea-colored pools that support unique ecosystems found nowhere else on the island. Mudskippers navigate these intertidal zones with amphibious confidence, their bulging eyes rotating independently to monitor aerial and aquatic environments simultaneously, while specialized gill chambers allow extended forays onto mudflats where they hunt insects with precision that demonstrates evolutionary solutions to habitat challenges. These fish that walk embody adaptation principles that inspire bioengineering research into prosthetic limb design and respiratory assistance technology. Wild orchids bloom in tree hollows where rainwater collects, and decaying organic matter creates fertile pockets of soil suspended dozens of feet above ground level. These aerial gardens demonstrating how life colonizes seemingly impossible ecological niches through strategies that combine opportunism with patience. The orchid roots extend through bark crevices, extracting moisture from humid air, while their waxy petals prevent dehydration during dry season intervals. Night herons stand motionless among reed beds, their gray plumage providing camouflage so effective they become invisible until movement betrays their presence as they strike with lightning reflexes to capture prey swimming through shallow channels. These patient hunters embody stillness principles that Zen masters study. Their ability to wait without restlessness, demonstrating meditation techniques that human practitioners spend lifetimes trying to master. Coconut crabs emerge from jungle undergrowth on legs powerful enough to crack open their namesake fruits. These terrestrial hermits, having abandoned oceanic origins to colonize land environments, while retaining gill structures that require periodic moisture to function properly. Their claws can exert crushing force capable of opening locks. Yet, they handle delicate coconut flowers with surgical precision during pollination activities that ensure future generations of palm trees. Moon moths navigate through canopy spaces using wing patterns that incorporate metallic scales, reflecting available light in ways that confuse bat echolocation systems. These nocturnal lepidopterans, demonstrating countermeasures, evolved specifically to defeat natural sonar detection. Their fuzzy antennae detect pheromone molecules from potential mates across distances measured in kilometers. Chemical communication that operates with sensitivity surpassing human-designed sensors. Pitcher plants suspend from vine networks, their modified leaves forming liquid-filled traps that attract insects with nectar rewards before drowning visitors in digestive enzymes that break down protein into absorbable nutrients. These botanical predators supplement photosynthetic energy production with carnivorous strategies. Their dual feeding methods allowing survival in nutrient-poor soils where conventional plants struggle to establish sustainable populations. Tree kangaroos leap between branches with acrobatic grace that seems to defy gravitational constraints. Their muscular tails providing counterbalance during aerial maneuvers that carry them through three-dimensional highways invisible to ground-dwelling creatures. These marsupial gymnasts descended from terrestrial ancestors who adapted to arboreal lifestyles. Their evolutionary journey demonstrating how environmental pressures can transform body plans across generations. Cicadas emerge from underground dormancy cycles, timed to avoid predator population peaks. Their synchronized appearances, creating acoustic phenomena that overwhelm bird hunting strategies through sheer numerical abundance. The males generate mating calls by vibrating specialized organs that produce sound volumes approaching pain thresholds for human ears. Yet, somehow these biological sirens create harmonious choruses that contribute to tropical atmosphere rather than destroying auditory peace. Strangler figs begin life as seeds deposited in tree crowns by fruit-eating birds. These aerial pioneers sending roots downward toward earth, while simultaneously growing upward toward sunlight, eventually encasing their host trees in living cages that persist long after the original support structures have decomposed. The hollow spaces left behind create natural sculptures that demonstrate how parasitic relationships can produce beauty through destructive processes. Leaf insects achieve camouflage so perfect they become indistinguishable from the vegetation they inhabit. Their bodies modified to replicate not only color and texture, but also the brown spots and torn edges that characterize aged foliage. These masters of disguise move with deliberate slowness that mimics leaf movement in gentle breezes. Their survival strategy, based on invisibility rather than speed or defensive weapons. Hornbills nest in tree cavities where females voluntarily seal themselves inside during incubation periods, depending entirely on male partners to deliver food through narrow openings that prevent access by predators, but require precise timing to ensure adequate nutrition for developing chicks. These birds demonstrate trust relationships that human couples study for insights into cooperation and mutual dependence during vulnerable life transitions. Your consciousness drifts deeper as these island inhabitants conduct their nocturnal business around your peaceful form. Each species contributing behavioral lessons to subconscious learning processes that operate continuously during sleep cycles, designed to incorporate environmental wisdom into human neural architecture. The creature's survival strategies somehow translate into personal insights about adaptation, patience, and finding niche environments where individual characteristics become advantages rather than limitations. Thermal springs bubble up through coral sand at specific locations where underground heat sources meet aquifer systems, creating warm pools that maintain constant temperatures regardless of surface weather conditions. These natural hot tubs support bacterial communities that produce minerals beneficial for human skin health. their microscopic populations, processing sulfur compounds into therapeutic concentrations that promote cellular regeneration during extended exposure. The mineral content of these springs includes trace elements that originated in Earth's molten core, their presence indicating geological processes that connect surface paradise to planetary interior dynamics, operating according to pressure and temperature relationships that have remained stable since continental formation. Soaking in these waters provides direct connection to forces that shaped the island's foundation, thermal energy that began its journey toward surface expression millions of years ago, finally reaching your relaxed body as gentle warmth that penetrates deeper than ordinary heated water, carrying geological patience into human tissue, where healing accelerates beyond normal biological rates. Your dreams incorporate these underground thermal narratives as stories of slow transformation, where pressure and time combine to create changes so fundamental they alter the basic structure of what seemed permanent. Yet, the alterations happen so gradually that each moment remains peaceful despite revolutionary outcomes measured across geological timescales that make human lifespans appear instantaneous. Ghost orchids bloom only during the island's quietest hours, their translucent petals appearing to hover unsupported in humid air, as specialized roots absorb moisture directly from atmospheric vapor. These ethereal flowers release aromatic compounds so subtle they register as fleeting impressions rather than distinct fragrances, their presence detectable only by those who have surrendered completely to tropical tranquility's embrace. Ancient driftwood sculptures carved by salt and time create natural meditation benches where previous visitors have worn smooth depressions through years of contemplative sitting. The wood grain tells migration stories of trees that began life on distant shores before oceanic currents delivered them to this sanctuary. Their cellular structure now infused with minerals that make each piece unique in weight and resonance. Your breathing becomes indistinguishable from the gentle huffing of sea breezes moving through bamboo groves, where hollow stems create wind instruments that play melodies composed by atmospheric pressure changes. These organic flutes generate overtones that harmonize with your slowing heartbeat, creating biological music that exists only in the intersection between human presence and botanical architecture. Sleeping fruit bats fold their leather wings around small bodies suspended from branches overhead, their collective dreams somehow radiating downward through gravitational fields that connect all resting creatures within the island's peaceful influence. Their mammalian kinship bridges the gap between human consciousness and tropical wilderness, creating shared sleep experiences that transcend species boundaries. As your awareness fades into dawn's approaching promise, Koh Lipe cradles your spirit with the same geological tenderness that has welcomed countless souls seeking refuge in paradise. Her eternal lullaby, continuing long after individual dreams dissolve into the vast, gentle breathing of an island at perfect rest.